Karen Read confuses evidence that implicates her with evidence one would use to frame her. The single most absurd element of the Karen Read complaint is that she confuses incriminating or inculpating evidence with evidence worth planting. Let's walk through this. Not in dispute is that John O'Keefe had a drinks glass that he carried from Waterfall Bar and Grill to 34 Fairview. Read has stated she saw O'Keefe exit her vehicle with that glass. Shards and pieces of glass were found near to O'Keefe's body, and on the road adjacent to where his body was found. And on his nose, according to Read, but no one but Read knew this little fact until 2024. Glass pieces were also found on the bumper of Read's Lexus SUV. Also not in dispute, O'Keefe's phone ceases to record movement after 12 hours 32 minutes and 9 seconds. There is a 20-second discrepancy. On January 29, 2022. O'Keefe is found 10 feet from the road, on the grass between a fire hydrant and a flagpole. According to the complaint, O'Keefe is lured to the garage by Brian Higgins and Brian Albert. This is unclear. He has to be clobbered and mauled within a very short period of time, because not only does O'Keefe's phone not record steps, he never picks it up to look at it again, and as we know, Karen Read is blowing up O'Keefe's phone. Read calls O'Keefe 7 times. This is between 12:33 and 12:35, before even arriving at O'Keefe's home that morning, and that drive could not have taken her more than 4 minutes, given the timing. By 1:18 a.m. that morning, Karen Read phones O'Keefe 29 times. So as O'Keefe had to have his phone with him, by 1:18 that morning the House defendants, or Psychic 5, have, according to Read, one big ol' mess. They've got an unconscious or dead man in the garage, who also is a cop, other guests still in the Albert home, guests who Karen Read is not implicating in this conspiracy. And guests who these House defendants are somehow hiding all this phone ringing, dog mauling and beat down from. And add one more big hiccup, O'Keefe's phone which will not stop ringing. So as O'Keefe had to have his phone with him, by 1:18 that morning the House defendants, or Psychic 5, have, according to Read, one big O. Yet there is nothing in the Celebrite report to indicate that volume was turned down on that phone, or that it was turned off. No indication that the House defendants were at all worried about any of their other guests hearing O'Keefe's phone non-stop ringing. Mess. They've got an unconscious or dead man in the garage, who also is a cop, other guests still in the Albert home, guests who Karen Read is not implicating in this conspiracy. And guests who these House defendants are somehow hiding all this phone ringing, dog mauling and beat down from. And add one more big hiccup, O'Keefe's phone which will not stop ringing. Now comes the moment of reckoning. What will these House defendants do to get rid of O'Keefe? Do they take him to the back where there are train tracks and place him on the tracks? Do they call fellow police claiming self-defense? Do they take O'Keefe out to a street corner where he might be hit by a snowplow? No, according to Karen Read, they take O'Keefe to the front lawn of the Albert home and dump him 10 feet from where he would have exited Karen Read's vehicle. And they don't take him by vehicle to this location, they drag or carry him all 70 feet or more to that location and for some reason place a vehicle at the darkest part of that lawn, before dropping O'Keefe at a location, not in the street, but 10 feet from it. Then, though this isn't stated in the complaint, they must throw O'Keefe's shoe onto the street near the curb, his hat on the ground, his phone under his body. Although Karen never explains how these House defendants do this, and that phone does not record steps, and these House defendants would have to have also carried out the drinks glass and thrown it on the ground and then thrown some pieces 10 feet from the street, near to O'Keefe. But here's where Karen Read's complaint careens off the rails. Why dump O'Keefe on the front lawn? Read claims this is done to frame her for a hit and run. But how? Let's say the House defendants did carry or drag O'Keefe across that lawn, through all these other items in the area. How would any of this prove a hit and run? And remember, Proctor is not present at this time. His alleged part in all this is even stranger. When you factor this in, none of the evidence that would have been available to the House defendants at any time that morning would have implicated anyone in a hit and run, let alone Karen Read. There would be no taillight pieces from her vehicle to plant at this time. No knowledge even that Read's taillight is broken. So House defendants placing O'Keefe 10 feet from the curb wouldn't ever incriminate Read. All that this would prove is that O'Keefe ended up very near to where he exited Read's vehicle. But nothing about this proves that Reed had anything to do with how he wound up in that exact location. Also remember, the House defendants would not know about Karen Reed's Techstream report. They're framing her. So as far as they would know at this time, Reed just drove away. So why would anyone do this if framing Karen Reed was the objective? Karen Reed never really explains this. She never explains how this massive conspiracy had its nucleus in a moment when the act of framing Karen Reed would be impossible for those she accuses of conspiring to do so. It's also very, very, very unclear how Trooper Michael Proctor joins the conspiracy. For the sake of argument, we'll just agree that even if it's a dumb plan, the 5 House defendants did decide, absent any evidence that would implicate Karen Reed, to frame her hours before she will volunteer that her taillight is broken and that she may have hit O'Keefe. But how does Proctor suddenly decide to join this party? Because if he is going to plant critical evidence, he has to do it right away. But we know that the first taillight pieces found could not have been planted. Reed's vehicle was in her possession until 4 in the afternoon. It's then on a tow truck and finally reaches the Canton Sally port after the first pieces of taillight were found at 34 Fairview. Granted, the glass on Reed's bumper will not be documented until after the weekend, February 1st, but then the question is, why would Proctor have gone to all the trouble to plant glass when taillight pieces already implicate Karen Reed? She's already framed, if that's the goal. Glass on the bumper doesn't make the case against Karen Reed stronger, why would it? And this is where the complaint falls spectacularly apart. You have 5 people conspiring to cover up a murder, or maybe murder, before they have any evidence they can use to frame Karen Reed. That evidence won't be available to them until much later. And we have Michael Proctor planting glass for no earthly reason. Granted, the glass on Reed's bumper will not be documented until after the weekend, February 1st, but then the question is, why would Proctor have gone to all the trouble to plant glass when taillight pieces already implicate Karen Reed? She's already framed,